Here.
Commissioner Bolt.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Nowicki.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Sperber.
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Doug Thornley.
Here.
City Planner Armando Ornelas.
Here.
Secretary Janet Stout. Here.
Next, we have the approval of minutes for June 2nd, 2011.
Move to approve as submitted.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have announcements and committee reports. Jim, do you have anything? Informational items? Next, we have public comment. Open the public comment. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on any item, either on or off the agenda, please step forward for 3 minutes. Seeing none, close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. The public hearing items, we have PCN 10007, Bladau Properties, LLC. Jim Rundle.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Jim Rundle, Senior Planner, here to present a special use permit for a drive-through restaurant over off of Bottom Boulevard. Staff received an application for a special use permit to construct approximately 3,000 square foot drive-through restaurant on a site within the transit-oriented development corridor. The Planning Commission is all too familiar with the transit-oriented development corridor and the standards that are associated with the TOD. Janet. The site is over in the vicinity of the Lowe's Hardware on Audi Boulevard. The site that we're talking about today is drive-through restaurant is here. The Lowe's would be to the north, approximately here. City line with Reno is just to the west of this site. Here's a landscape plan or plan view of the proposal. As the Planning Commission is familiar with, as I said, this is in the transit-oriented development corridor, so it complies with a different set of design standards than what a drive-through restaurant typically complies with in the city of Sparks. The applicant understood that when they submitted the application and has proposed to reduce the size of the parcel to approximately 6,000 square feet. Staff has made that a condition of approval of the special use permit. Of course, the reason why the applicant would be required to reduce the size of the parcel is to comply with the floor area ratio that the TOD requires. On Audi Boulevard, it's a 0.5 floor to area ratio. That would potentially provide for a parking issue, and the site may not be able to meet the parking requirements that are required of a drive-through restaurant. So as a condition of approval, the staff has included a reciprocal parking agreement to be entered into with the shopping center. So essentially, they can count parking spaces that aren't on their parcel and are on a different parcel. I think that the Planning Commission is familiar with the elevations. They do comply with the design standards of the transit-oriented development corridor. And because the application is going to comply with the floor to area ratio, staff was able to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission of approval. Of the 5 findings required to support approval, staff has made a case that all 5 findings can be made and is recommending to the Planning Commission that PCN 11007 is approved. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? This is a public hearing, open public hearing up. Anybody in the audience wish to come and speak on this item? Would you like?
Thank you, Chairman Lane. John Krompatek with KLS Planning, representing the applicant who is Bladau Properties. In very brief summary, we are very satisfied with the staff report and the conditions as written. We worked an awful lot for the last 6 months with staff, and I'm very pleased that we have such a positive recommendation because it wasn't as easy as you see in the paper today. I have my own issues with the TOD, but I think the TOD is very challenging. It sets a bar in terms of architectural standards that can be very aggressive and costly, and it's nice for shaping community, but sometimes I wonder about the purpose of them, and certainly that's no reflection on staff, because I think they've done a fine job in representing the public interest with respect to upholding those standards. So other than that, I'm just here for any questions, so thank you.
Any questions for John? Commissioner Bowles?
One question, just a curiosity more than anything.
Yeah.
The reduction in the size of the pad to meet the Florida area requirements, what would a typical Jack-in-the-Box be in terms of total square?
This is typical.
So this is not a reduction in terms of what they would normally
No,
do?
this is this is one of their prototypes, and their prototypes are all very similar in size. The issue is that we had 3,000 square feet divided by 20,000, which brought the floor area ratio down to, what is that math?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So your normal size of the total square footage of the pad itself, not the building, would have been 20,000?
The pad, no,
Or not a pad, but the
footprint.
Or the footprint,
the
yes.
footprint is, this is typical footprint. We just did a new parcel map to create a smaller parcel to
Oh, I
make
see.
the numbers work.
Okay.
Yeah. On the floor area ratio. Make sense? Okay.
Commissioner Peterson?
And I just wanted to, I think that I already know this, but this will replace the Jack-in-the-Box across the street, right? That'll close?
Yes, it's the same owner. Is that right, Lisa? This will, when they have some issues with the business side of it, the operation of that store and the expiration of the lease and so on, but when they pull the plug on that one, or vice versa, when this goes up, they pull the plug on that one. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Commissioner Peterson, I want to make it clear that this is a special use permit for a drive-through restaurant as opposed to just the Jack in the Box.
Well, okay, you're right.
So
Okay.
it has a year approval and a potential for a year extension. So if someone else were to want to come in and do another building there, another fast food restaurant, there is an entitlements for a drive-through restaurant.
Okay.
Less so than a Jack in the Box, even though the elevations reflect all of that kind of thing.
Okay, great. And I'm glad you appreciate our staff.
Absolutely.
Well, I wouldn't...
When I was looking at the site plan, it shows on the site plan that canopy,
Yeah.
and I don't know, Chairman Lane, I didn't know if you had more concerns over the width of those columns, or
I did.
if they were just looking too small.
Well, we're looking at it from just that one elevation, they almost look like pencils out there. Maybe you could go ahead and, at least give us a dimension on them, but it didn't look very thick at all, or
Well,
long.
and let me pull that elevation up. It shows. I think here's the one, Chairman. It shows the. Thank you, John. So we do have one more iteration coming. We left this with staff that, the overall character of this, we're very much in keeping with the TOD standards. I think we did about 4 iterations of architectural improvements, and then staff did point out to me that a little more substantial architectural flair at the columns would be expected, and we said fine. So you have that in the record, and you certainly have our commitment.
Okay, that's good, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So just to be sure we're all talking about the same thing, if you were looking at this schematic, the canopy would cover half or more of the driveway. It's not showing it all here.
It's not, because it's the landscape planning, you didn't want to wipe out the
Okay.
primary purpose of that plan. Let me show you on another one.
I'm not sure I had that.
Yeah,
Oh, I see it.
it shows the canopy and gives the area of the canopy.
Gotcha.
Could you zoom that? Oh, I guess I zoomed that, don't I? Excuse me.
I see the one that you're talking about.
See that? So now you see it, at least as it relates to the building and the overall site, and you can see that's an 800 and something square feet.
That would be fine.
Adds to the floor area ratio.
The one that's shown the way we look at it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any other questions for John?
Yeah, I just have one, and this might be more for Mr. Rundle. When we talked about some of these drive-throughs before so close to the road, do we have any issues with headlights? And because I remember when we were talking about the In-N-Out Burger, there was some additional mounding and landscaping just for that reason.
Commissioner Lee, Jim Rundle, to address the question. That's a good memory, Commissioner Barnes.
Don't ask me what I did yesterday, I can't remember.
2002 or something like that. Had the planning commission meeting in the city hall basement, I believe. So I talked to you. The reason that we did the mounding and the rockery at the In-N-Out Burger was across the street there was residential. Whereas on this, on Audi, across the street is Paradise Park. And so the concern about the headlights are less because the residential is not across the street on Audi.
Could I add to that, please?
Yeah.
You being an engineer, Mr. Barnes, I think you might appreciate there's a 3-foot grade change, and then in that landscape strip, you see we have it densely shrubbed up, so that headlights would hit into the wall, and then if there's any more filtering needed, it would be that line of shrubs that are adjacent to that, right on top of the wall. But there's 3 feet taken up in that grade chain. That's the only place to take it up in the site. So
Is it the restaurant down the road in the street?
the restaurant's down below, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just, the landscaping plan looks pretty, but it doesn't really show
Doesn't show the grades,
anything
yeah.
else. And I just remember having this discussion before on other ones because it was a safety concern.
I don't know if it was safety and also like finding, is it finding S2? Is it compatible with the surrounding uses? And we didn't believe that the idling, along with the headlights at the site or the In-N-Out site, we anticipated the late night idling and such, and so we really beefed up. And actually, I think it really looks nice with
Yes, it
the
does.
landscaping and the way it blocks the driveway. So, as Mr. Kompotic has added, that we are concerned and have the landscape plan will have to be built implemented as submitted, but it's not as, in my opinion, not as important as when it's right across from the residential.
Okay. I'm just trying to remember being consistent, so
Sure.
it just came up. Thank you.
And that's, I think, why you do a special use permit, to make sure that it obviously is special and look at the surrounding properties for that site.
Special indeed.
Is that it, Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for John? John, I have a question.
Please.
And I didn't see it, maybe it's there or whatever, but is there a freestanding sign going to be placed on the property?
There is a sign. The existing sign is there. I think there's a panel that's allocated for this parcel. And then there's a couple of wall signs, right? You see those on pre-elevation.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I
Okay.
was talking about...
Not a new sign, just the existing
Okay.
monument sign you're talking
Very
about.
good. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant or Jim? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Are you prepared for a motion?
Commissioner Peterson, go ahead.
I move to approve the special use permit associated with PCN 11007 to allow for a drive-through restaurant, Jack in the Box, approximately 3,000 square feet in size, adopting findings S1 through S6, and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval 1 through 25 as listed in the staff report.
Second.
Well, the motion to approve from Commissioner Peterson and a second from Commissioner Nowicki. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, John. Jim, you did an excellent job for being the first time doing one. You did good. We're proud of you down here.
Commissioner Lean, or Chairman Lean, I wanted to add, Karen Moby helped out to complete the staff report, and Janet helped as well. So.
Karen and Janet, they both got thank yous too. Thank you, Jim. No general business. Any comments from the commissioners? Art? I expected one from you tonight.
I know you did.
Okay. Thank you. Then we're adjourned.